Hey there. Okay, today we're doing Battelle. I'm sure if you haven't heard of it in passing, you've probably heard of one or two things that they have invented, but you didn't even know it was them because that was how I stumbled across them. I also stumbled across 4chan. You're going to hear my dog probably barking in the background. There's some thunder outside and she's not having it. But anyway, they actually according to 4chan, which is kind of like the alternative podcast or YouTube channel that I occasionally I stumble into because their stories are pretty good. People write in and they read their stories out, and they use like this very monotone kind of computerized voice that I think is really interesting to listen to sometimes. It's creepy. It's fun because sometimes getting a little creeped out can be fun. But in this case, I found out a couple of things that I didn't know in my regular research. So it was fun. I mixed the two and let's see what we come up with. So, on the surface, okay, Battelle's a leading developer of medical devices, such as a thing called RFID. They're like tags. It's a form of technology that I'm going to put it in layman's terms. Basically, across the entire country, they can find vital equipment that would be needed for, say, surgeries or, I mean, a lot of life saving things for patients. And it can track where this equipment is and how they can get it and all of these kinds of things. They can also use this for military purposes, meaning if there is a encounter on the battlefield, say, I'm going to make it sound like I said, pretty layman's, pretty generic. Say a soldier gets hurt, the medic comes to him. He's got one of these medical tags on. They can read the tag and know instantly what's wrong, what this soldier would need, and how to get it, where to get the equipment they would need. And they can send back the information to make sure that that equipment that they need to save this life is there. And it's awesome. I mean, when I started reading this, I went, geez, okay, so far so good. This company seems great. So anyway, that's kind of like one of the major things that they work on. They work on a lot of major things though, but that's one of the major ones. It's also a provider of cybersecurity solutions, and it's also a threat assessment tool. They have a slew of teams working like around the clock on threat assessment, and how they can help with that. Incident responses and vulnerability management. So, where we have holes maybe for security, they're working to plug those holes. Now, a couple of other interesting things again that I did flip over to 4chan, the YouTube channel of the creepy sometimes, but not in this case. But Battelle also manages or co-manages several national labs for the Department of Energy, one of which is only a little over an hour away from me here in Idaho, and it's called the Idaho National Laboratory. Just so happens that this laboratory is the leader in the nation of nuclear energy. So I thought that was pretty interesting. They also they had the first nuclear fuel rods for the Nautilus, which was the world's first nuclear submarine. And then my favorite little tidbit I found was a side note about Joe Rogan Experience, episode 1574. His guests were James Fox, a filmmaker who I'm sure you've heard of. He did movies like Moment of Contact, The Phenomenon. Um, he also, I think, I Know What I Saw. There's two parts to that, I believe. And then also on the show is the world renowned and respected UFO researcher and scientist Jacques Vallée, who I have mentioned is my all time favorite. And they talked about the now infamous 1952 Washington, D.C. UFO incident. And it was at the time Jacques Vallée, I don't know if he accidentally disclosed this, but he ended up saying that there was a piece of metal. I guess he called it metal that was shot off of a piece of one of the UFOs that was overhead in this incident. And after several nudges from both James and Joe, Jacques finally disclosed that the piece of metal wound up at Battelle. Now, he stopped just short of saying what was discovered about it because that information is actually still qualified, classified. Can you believe that though? From 1952, it's still classified and he won't talk about it. So, anyway, Battelle engineers and scientists are also responsible for a wide variety of technological advances that I'll bet you did not know that they invented. Quite the innovators they are. First of all, let's take a look at this CD player slash copier. They invented both the copy machine. They ended up acquiring Xerox, and they invented cruise control. They invented barcodes, and they even invented, get this, dimples on golf balls. All right. I mean, none of these things have made Battelle a household name, but have no fear. As the largest independent nonprofit applied science and technology organization in the world, not the country, guys, the world, they don't need to boast or brag about much of the stuff they have. They're pretty well covered. The contracts they have are not limited to, but include healthcare, infrastructure. These are all things that they work on to help better, supposedly, our, meaning society's lives. Agriculture, um, environmental, and also my favorite that I did end up concentrating on, which I know will shock everyone, their government contracts. And I have kind of a comprehensive list here that will tell you what their engagements have been in the past and some that you may think are still kind of current, as I do. The first one I wanted to bring up was Project Blue Book. They were directly involved in, they were contracted by the United States Air Force. And according to the information I gathered, um, Project Blue Book, just a quick reminder, was the government's investigation into UFO eyewitness reports and incidents, and was headed up by Dr. J. Allen Hynek, and that was from 1947 to 1969. Now, during this time, they were tasked with giving the Air Force technical advice for that project. I am not sure what that means, but it sounds intriguing. So, next up, we have Project Stargate. Now, I've heard of Project Stargate because I've done plenty of talking about this, even in a full episode. It relates directly to remote viewing, which allows people to perceive events or locations at a distance. They developed the protocols and equipment for this program. What that means, I don't know. They don't really go into details. Now, the next one I had never heard of. They were involved in something called Project Grill Flame. And again, they were contracted by, and the Stargate and this one, they all started working they were contracted by the CIA. My bad. I forgot to mention that. Now, this program was specifically designed to create the possibility of communication with extraterrestrials. And here again, they were responsible for developing protocols and equipment. I don't know what that means. I would love to know what that includes, but alas, maybe someday before I die. Next up, again, this is actually not CIA. This is for DARPA, okay, which is the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. And this one was specifically for, are you ready for this? I mean, this one kind of caught me off guard, knocked me off my chair, blew up the skirt, like I always say. Time travel, guys. They were to look into time travel. Okay. Again, do not know the outcome of it, but back to CIA. This is the one I think is still going on, but I'm just among many who believe that. But they were contracted by the CIA to help with Project MK Ultra. Now, it says, in my research that from 1953 to 1973, the experiments in the program were active. I still believe it's still active. and I believe it's active with a more sophisticated form of the program. That's my take on it. Doesn't mean it's anybody else's, it's just mine. But, it's the mind control techniques. And I'll tell you what, if anyone doesn't believe that there's still some mind control going on out there in the world, I kind of feel like that's a naive thing to think. You know what though? To each his own. Um, Last one, you're gonna think I'm making it up because I really thought that I was being punked or something. Um, it's utterly ridiculous. It is called Project Acoustic Kitty. Yeah, so it's another CIA gem, and it's supposedly used to train cats to spy on people. Uh-huh. They trained these cats and they were implanted in the ear. You can see in the picture that I put up that put it in the ear and then it goes down the spine and they were to, record information. But somehow I'm not understanding or seeing how if you're having a high level confidential conversation, say it's between like two different countries or something and they're talking about arms dealing or something, you're going to let a cat just walk around the room? Like, I can't even like wrap my head around how stupid that sounds. But anyway, I guess that's a CIA for you sometimes. They think outside the box, the kitty litter box. Okay, anyway, sorry. I just, sorry. So, as you can see, with all this, Battelle's surface appearance as inventors and innovators is only like half the story, right? And the theories surrounding their involvement with UFO research is obviously what I'm most drawn to. I'm going to keep digging into them because they really do fascinate me. And 4chan had even more stuff to talk about, but I didn't bring it up because I think I need to weed through it a little bit more before you guys call me cuckoo. I know you already think I'm weird. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this, or if you know about Battelle, I would love to know what you know and enlighten me. But until next time, I hope you're all staying happy and healthy and stay weird. Take care. Bye.